Hi guys, hope you're doing well. We're drawn towards the end of research methods now. We've just got a couple of little things to finish off that we'll do over the next week or so, ready to start a new topic after half term. Before you do that, I should probably tell you that I was on a diabetes awareness website this week, and the first thing that popped up was it said, "Do I accept cookies?" I thought that's definitely a trick question. Okay, the jokes aren't improving with time, are they? All right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to look at positivism and interpretivism. I've said a few times now that it's something that we need to go over and make sure you know fully and really, really well. The reason being, it's something that you can use in any research methods question. So it's really quite important, but also very helpful for you. And if you can talk about it well, then it looks good to the examiner and will make a difference to the mark. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so the key thing, the absolutely crucial thing that you have to understand when you're thinking about and writing about positivism or interpretivism is that you've got to understand the way they see society. Okay, what they believe about society and how society works generally, because that's the key thing. That's the thing that's going to make the difference, and that's what determines what method you use to research society. You believe one thing about society, you're going to investigate it a certain way. You believe something else, you're going to investigate it in a different way. All right, that's the absolutely crucial thing. So the end of this video, that's what I want you to know really, really well, to be absolutely clear of in your mind. And if you're not clear on it, watch the video several times, go through it and make sure you try and process it all as much as possible. You're still struggling, text a friend, see if they can help. And then if that's not working, send me an email and I'll try again. All right, we'll start with positivism first. So positivists, when they look at society, what they see, they don't just see a large group of individual people. What they see is there's forces, external forces that are outside of people. They're not internal, they're not inside, they're outside of people. Which means there's some kind of object, some kind of thing outside of people that can affect people's behavior, can affect individuals' behavior, can control you to a reasonable degree. And that's what they believe about society. Society has these forces operating them. And it doesn't matter what you think or feel about these forces, in the same way that it doesn't matter what you think or feel or believe about gravity. Gravity is going to keep you on the ground whether you believe in it or not. The same thing with these forces. These forces are going to affect your behavior no matter what you think, no matter what you feel. Okay? So these forces, now these forces are called social facts. In fact, Durkheim, founder of sociology, father of sociology, and leading positivist, he was a positivist, he called them social facts. These are facts, these are things that are completely objective and unchangeable, right? And they make up the structure of society. They actually, form the structure of society. Another word for them would be the social institutions. Things like education, things like media, things like family, things like the rule of law. These are all social facts that control people's behavior. They're outside of individuals, they're external to individuals, but they control people's behavior. They have they're a force that can affect what you think, what you feel, what you do. Now, because these social facts, they're like rules that apply to everyone in the society. The whole point that positivists think is that it's possible then to identify patterns. Because it's affecting everyone, there's going to be a pattern of behavior. So the whole thing about positivist research, because that's how they see society, they want to look for these behavior patterns. They want to observe and measure the effects of these social facts, of the forces on people. Okay, now when we're talking about measuring, you've got to remember as well that Durkheim and sociology was kind of born at a time when science had just kind of taken over from religion as the ultimate source of knowledge. And so science was like the big new hot thing and was the way of now seeing the world. And Durkheim and a lot of the other kind of early sociologists, they wanted They wanted sociology to be a science, just like physics and chemistry. They wanted it to work exactly the same and thought it could work exactly the same. And so that's positivism is part of that kind of way of seeing the world as governed by scientific laws or facts that are outside of people, external to people. And the way that you research that is you observe what happens, you measure what happens, until you can prove cause and effect, right? And so Durkheim wanted to do exactly the same thing. Positivists want to do exactly the same thing. They want to measure these social patterns, these behaviour patterns that are caused by the social forces, social facts, the external forces, the social facts. Those cause the behaviour patterns, and that's what we measure, and that way we can prove, what's happening, that this has caused that. Which means that positivists are all about quantitative data. This is the only type of data that will show you a behaviour pattern. Okay, it's been caused by the social facts, and so it's the only data that will actually detect those patterns. Qualitative data, what an individual happens to feel about, for example, equality in their marriage, that isn't firstly, it's something that the social facts of the family and other social facts or social institutions have caused. So it's something that they're being made to think that way by the external forces. And secondly, it doesn't actually tell us about the social fact, only tells you about the individual. And seeing as that individual is being controlled by the social fact anyway, it's far more valuable, far better to research the patterns of these social facts, large-scale quantitative data. And when they're analysing this quantitative data, they're looking for these patterns. An example would be that if 95% of working class students fail their GCSEs, we can conclude then that there's been a cause and an effect. The cause of social class, which is a social fact, it's an external force, has caused the effect of educational failure. Yeah, and then positivists would look in, well, exactly how's that worked, but we can conclude that has happened, that external force, something outside of people's control, outside of people, has changed, controlled them, restricted them, changed their behaviour and the way they think and the way they feel to achieve this particular thing, to cause this particular thing, which in the example I'm using is academic failure, failing at your GCSEs. So that's why positivists value methods that give you the quantitative data. That proving cause and effect, like the natural sciences, like physics and chemistry and biology, proving cause and effect because of things that are the forces that are outside of people's control, because that's what makes up society. That's how they view society. Right, now I've said quite a lot there. Do your very best to kind of digest it, process it, and then write it up in a way that makes sense to you, in a clear way that makes sense to you, in the relevant box on the Word document, and that's task 8.1. Now, the other side of the perspective coin is interpretivism. Okay, now they don't see and don't believe that there are social forces that are external, outside of humans. They say that and believe that society exists, and everything in society that exists is created through our meanings, our thoughts, and our interactions and interpretations with others. Right? So what you think and believe is what creates reality. It's not something outside of those kind of thoughts and meanings and interactions. It's what you think and what you believe. So it's not something that's outside of people. It's it's all within people. It doesn't mean that one individual shapes reality. It's something that's done together, collectively, through our interactions and then interpretations together. But it's not. There's nothing external outside of us that is doing it and controlling us. Our behaviour is shaped by our beliefs and the meanings that we have. For example, I don't stop at a red light because some external force compels me. It's the meaning that I have and the interpretation that I have of that situation that red means stop. I need to stop there. And I can already, hear in my mind's eye, loads of you smart asses going, how do you know you're colourblind? Oh, it's because it's the one at the top, all right? Anyway, it's not an external force that stops me. It's not the red light that stops me. It's my interpretation and the meaning that I have in my head about that red light. Yeah. So our behaviour is affected by the meanings, by the interpretation, not by the external forces or the social facts, as Durkheim called them. So the important thing to research is the thing, the meanings that people have in their heads. That's the important thing in society. That's what makes society what it is. For example, the red light might not mean stop to you. It might mean danger, because every time you drive past it, you almost die. Yeah, there's a different meaning there about the same situation. So the thing that controls our behaviour and affects our behaviour is the meaning and interpretations we have. Positivists would say these meanings are just the product of social facts. You've been programmed to think that way by the different social facts, the different external forces that make up society, the structure of society. But interpretivists, they said, no, there aren't any social facts and things outside of people. Okay, it's all of these different social institutions, all the family, education, media, they're all made what they are by the meanings that people have in their heads, the thoughts that people have in their heads about them. And again, people collectively, as a group, more than just one individual. So that's the only thing that's worth researching, those meanings. That's the only thing that's worth investigating. And one of the key ways that they try and do this is through achieving something called Verstehen. Okay, now it's a German word that means like seeing the world through someone else's eyes, or seeing what is it like to be in the participant's shoes? How, what meanings do they have in their head? What's the real kind of interpretation and meaning and thoughts that they have? Because that's what makes society what it is. That's the thing that we need to study. And obviously, the type of data that gets to the meanings and the heart of the matter, the kind of depth and detail of thoughts and feelings, is the qualitative data. And so it's the qualitative methods that are valuable for interpretivists for that reason. Statistics for them, they don't tell us about the meanings and interpretations people have in their heads. And so they're not of value, because society isn't made up of external things where there's a cause and an effect. Society is made up of the different ways that people think, and that creates, makes society what it is, and that's what affects our behaviour. So if I continue the example of the working class kids, they don't fail in education because, of the external forces that are associated with being working class. They fail in education because teachers interpret working class characteristics, have meanings in their heads about working class kids, and they think they're troublemakers. The meaning is, well, if I see you as a working class kid, you're going to be lazy and you're going to disrupt my lesson, and therefore, I'm not going to waste my time teaching you. But the middle class kids, they're much more likely to be good students, and so I'm going to teach them. And so it's the meanings that people have, and then the interactions between people, the interactions between these teachers and the working class kids, that affect behaviour. It's nothing to do with the external forces of, the different parts that would make up social class. It's all to do with what's in people's minds, people's thoughts, people's heads. And so that's why interpreters value the qualitative data. Okay, task 8.1 then, now is to make notes on the interpretivist point of view. What I really want you to do from now on, really, for this task and for future tasks, is to take, really try and digest and process everything I've said. Don't just write up notes verbatim. Don't just write it up word for word. Don't just watch the video and type up exactly what I'm saying, because that's like copying out of a textbook, and there's no processing going on there in your brain, and therefore this information is unlikely to stay in your memory very long. What you need to do is try and digest it and then write it up in your own words. Okay, now obviously some of the words that I've used are going to be the same, but you need to try, I can tell that students are more and more now just writing up what I've said, word for word. Don't do that, please. try and understand it and try and put it in your own words as best as possible. You'll obviously need to use the same keywords, and you can use the same examples, but try and phrase it in the way that makes sense to you and is your own work. You've actually used your brain power to achieve it. Okay, that's task 8.1, writing up the notes for positivism and writing up notes for interpretivism. So now you've done that, what I want you to be doing for task 8.2 is to demonstrate your hopefully deeper and better understanding of those two different perspectives. So what I want you to do, you'll see on the Word document, there's 3 boxes that each says research method 1, 2, and 3. I want you to pick 3 different research methods. You need to be specific. It doesn't matter which ones, but you need to be specific about the particular subtype. So if you can't just say like experiments, you need to be clear that it's either a field or a lab experiment. You can't just say participant observation. It needs to be clear that it's covert or overt participant observation. So pick 3 different methods, but be very specific as to the method. And what you're going to do is you're going to explain what positivists and interpretivists think about those methods and why. So you've got 3 different methods and you've got 2 different points of view within each method. So that's 6 different paragraphs I'm looking for. I want to know, what do positivists, what do interpretivists think? And it's not enough, you're really looking for depth here. It's not enough to say that positivists like this method because it produces quantitative data. Okay, that doesn't help me. We've got to go into a much more deep detail than that. This not only is testing your research methods knowledge, it's also getting you used to fully explaining yourself, going into the level of depth that you'd need to with every kind of paragraph and essay question. So you've got to go into it and say, interpretivists like this because it produces qualitative data, but they like qualitative data because of the way they see society, and they see society like this, and therefore this is important. And therefore they try to achieve this. And so the method that you're describing, you've got to then explain why it's, what they think about it, whether they think it's good or bad. Right, I hope that makes sense. I said in the last video, I think it was, that the next couple of lessons won't be as much of a time commitment, and I wouldn't say that this one is. So the idea is that you'll be working on your content analysis, and I've seen some good examples of that so far. I've forgotten I think it was task 6.5, but I might be wrong about that. And then also working on task 10, which is your overview table of all of the different research methods. And this will help inform your strengths and weaknesses. Like I said, positivism and interpretivism you can include in any research methods question. And probably should be trying to include in any research methods question. So you can include it on your table. Positivists think that this is a good method because. Interpretivists less so because. All right. I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe. We've got a week and a half until half term, and you'll have a week off then. And then it's entirely possible we might be back in not too long after that half term. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all and to returning to normality. All right. Take care. Bye.